Are you religious enough? G'day. Thanks for joining me as we consider God's word from the book of Mark. Today we're looking at Mark chapter 2 verses 18 to 22. And it's made up of three things, this particular passage from the Bible. Firstly, there's this question over the tradition of fasting. And then we have Jesus' rather oblique answer, something to do with a bridegroom. And then he gives even more teaching about traditions with a pair of short analogies. At first look, you know what, it may not appear that they are all connected, but stick with it and we'll see that they are all connected rather well. Okay, so we're going to read the passage now from verse 18 through to the end of verse 22. Mark chapter 2 verse 18. Now, John's disciples and the Pharisees were fasting. People came and asked him, that's Jesus, why do John's disciples and the Pharisees' disciples fast, but your disciples do not fast? Jesus said to them, well, the wedding guests cannot fast while the groom is with them, can they? As long as they have the groom with them, they cannot fast. But the time will come when the groom will be taken away from them, and then they will fast on that day. No one sews a patch of unshrunk cloth on an old garment. Otherwise, the new patch pulls away from the old cloth, and a worse tear is made. And no one puts new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise, the wine will burst the skins, and the wine is lost as well as the skins. No, new wine is put into fresh wineskins. All right, so what's happened so far? Jesus, he's just called Levi, a tax collector, to be one of his disciples. It appears Jesus is in no way out to win the popular vote with that kind of selection. And what we read next also shows that Jesus, he's not particularly worried about maintaining an image. Check out verse 18 again. Now, John's disciples and the Pharisees were fasting, right? So both these groups are fasting. People came and asked Jesus. They've noticed something different here. They've noticed what the others are doing, and they've looked at Jesus and why did John's disciples and the Pharisees' disciples fast? But Jesus, your disciples don't fast. Can you hear the challenge? It's there, isn't it? Now, traditionally, a fast is where a person, they deny themselves food and sometimes even water for a time. They do this to show their devotion to God and their need for God. And the Old Testament law only prescribed one regular fast a year. But with growing traditions, this became 5 fasts each year. So there would be 5 festivals, and at each of these new festivals, there'd be another fast. And they got to the point where there were 5 festivals with fasting each year. But by the time of Jesus, if fasting for a special occasion is good, why not fast once a month? Well, why not once a week? Hey, 2 times a week. It's interesting how things can grow. In their efforts to be devout, the Pharisees had established a tradition of fasting 2 days every week. God's law, once a year. The traditions of the Pharisees, twice a week. Something's going on here. And it seems that after John the Baptizer has been arrested, his disciples, his followers, have also taken on this tradition. They want to be faithful to God too. They want to show their devotion. So they're taking on this tradition which seems very good at demonstrating their devotion and reliance on God. There's a lot of fasting going on and it's very religious. But Jesus' disciples, and by implication he himself, they're not fasting. They're not fasting like the other disciples. So the question, hey Jesus, John's disciples, the Pharisees' disciples, they fast. Why not yours? These other disciples, they look devout, loyal to God. But what about you and yours? Jesus, are you taking your religion? Are you taking God seriously enough? It's certainly a valid question. Do we take God seriously enough? We should ask ourselves this question. But Jesus' answer, I don't think it's what they expected. Let me read it to you from verse 19. Jesus said to them, well, the wedding guests can't fast while the groom's with them, can they? As long as the groom's with them, they can't fast. But The time will come when the groom will be taken away from them, and then they'll fast on that day. Yes, fasting's good, but now's not the time. You don't fast at a wedding feast. It's time for celebration. Now, Jesus, he doesn't answer the questions I want answered. He doesn't teach much about the nature of fasting, why it's good, who should do it, how much, how often. Instead, he presents himself as a bridegroom, his followers as wedding guests, and the fact that, well, it's simply not appropriate to fast right now. Why? Because Jesus is here. There's something about the presence of Jesus that makes it inappropriate for his followers to fast. And the clue as to why that's the case is found in the picture of Jesus being a bridegroom at a wedding, which is a big, big picture. Let's look at this. In the Hebrew scriptures in the Old Testament, who's often portrayed as the bridegroom? That's right, God is. And who's the bride? God's people. And marriage, it's often used as an image of God's people finally being restored to their proper relationship with God. I don't know, mate. Perhaps Jesus is hinting at the fact that he represents God, that he is God's Messiah, the one who's going to restore God's people to a right standing with God. But at the very least, Jesus, he's making it very clear. With his coming, it's a time for joy, to celebrate, not to fast. And if sticking to their tradition of fasting, it would be a terrible shame for the other disciples, the disciples of the Pharisees and of John. It'd be a shame for them to miss out on what the coming of Jesus brings. The tradition of fasting 2 days a week, it might be a good idea. Perhaps a conversation for another day. It might be a good tradition. But if their loyalty to their tradition blinds them to the coming of the bridegroom, to the coming of Jesus, their tradition is a tragedy. Anyway, what does Jesus say? He's the bridegroom, his followers are the wedding guest, and it's a time of joy. But this time of joy will lead to a time of fasting. There will be a time when Jesus will be gone. And not just gone. Notice the words he uses here. I'll read it again from verse 20. But the time will come, Jesus says, when the groom will be taken away from them, and then they'll fast on that day. Jesus knows that his ministry will end by force. He will be taken away. Just as John the Baptist was violently taken away and his disciples fasted, so too when Jesus is violently taken away, his disciples will fast. But for now, Jesus' disciples, they can't. That'd be inappropriate. Don't fast simply because that's the tradition. They mustn't let tradition get in the way of something much bigger. You see, a tradition is only as useful as it remains useful. Jesus takes this question and he uses it to teach something very important about tradition, some attitudes and habits locked in place. And he does so with two parallel pictures starting from verse 21. He says, no one sews an unshrunk cloth on an old garment. Otherwise the new patch pulls away from the old cloth and a worse tear is made. And no one puts new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise the wine will burst the skins and the wine is lost as well as the skins. No, new wine is put into fresh wineskins. You see, Jesus and his teaching is the new cloth, the new wine. The old garment, the old wineskins, they represent whatever attitudes, habits, traditions that hold us back from listening afresh to the teachings of Jesus. We might be religious. We might go to church twice on Sundays. We might meditate each night. We might pray the Lord's Prayer 3 times a day. Or perhaps we might love tradition itself. The old songs we know, the habits of ritual, that special place of worship. But it'll do us no good. Indeed, it'll ruin us like a torn garment or a burst wineskin. It will ruin us if any of those good things stop us from listening, hearing, obeying Jesus afresh each day. We mustn't get stuck doing what we've always done if it means we miss out on the life that only Jesus brings. If our traditions become more important than listening afresh to Jesus. But perhaps we're not particularly religious. Perhaps our habits have very little to do with church, temple or mosque. But don't make the mistake of thinking we aren't stuck in our ways either. Perhaps we dismiss Jesus out of habit. We're too busy running our lives to take Jesus seriously. Let me encourage you, listen afresh to Jesus. He is the great bridegroom, God's saving King. If we miss out on Jesus, we'll end up losing everything. Whatever it is, let's stop. Let's look afresh to Jesus.